Simon, Burge, good to see you, handsome fellows, again. It's been a long week in crypto land. Just to the 5 people, in fact, 5's quite a lot for the first couple of seconds, which might bode well for the rest of the stream. Just for the 5 of you who've joined us, just do me a massive favor, please just share out the stream on whatever platform you're on. It's going to be a real interesting one today. Obviously, there's been a bit of volatility in crypto. We're talking about NFTs, some of the different tokens, obviously some of the stuff that's happening in the token works ecosystem. But guys, Simon, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been doing my bits and pieces of work, coaching, etc. I was down in Twickenham Stadium, the Allianz Stadium on Monday, doing a leadership or an event really, helping out with that, facilitating a section of that, which was fun and makes me realize how much I love going to stadiums actually. And I've made a promise to myself, I've got to go to more sporting events, because I got there and looked out on the pitch and thought, there's nothing like we often talk about live NFT get together. There's nothing like a live sporting event. So that definitely gave me that little kick. And the other thing I've been doing is, for some bizarre reason, going a bit crazy with new mints, which we can talk about later.
I've seen that.
I don't know why I've done it, but I've just gone bonkers the last few days. But there we go. Well, I love it.
You've I was going to say you got enough disposable income, because obviously just offline you've just told us the what your coaching fees are, which, to be honest, matches your skill.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting away with it.
No. I'm only joking, my friend. Burge, how have you been, bud? You're nicely settled in the new flat.
Yeah. I've been. I've finally got a fan, so and actually it's cooled down a little bit, so I'm not.
Yeah,
not absolutely dying. I mean, I have to say though, if I wasn't on this call, this t-shirt would be off. I'd be I'd be chilling. But yeah, it's been an interesting last few weeks actually. The market, it's really interesting. The market right now has really been very strongly, anti-Bitcoin. There's a lot of anti-Bitcoin sentiment out there. Crypto is obviously not doing too well. I think, Simon, you said in our chat just earlier that it doesn't tend to do well during the summer anyway. I feel like I secretly feel like there's a setup here. Like the market has it all wrong, and that we're actually setting up for what will be quite a historic end of the year, second half of the year. So I'm pretty. That's not a lot of my. I just think, we go back to the Kevin Walsh coming in. We go back to this war, which yes, it's still a factor right now. It still hasn't been resolved, but it's kind of like everyone kind of knows that Trump needs to resolve this war, and even he knows to some degree. Now he doesn't want to concede. He doesn't want to look weak, but at the same time, like economically, it's got to be sorted out. This Strait of Hormuz. I actually wonder what I haven't looked into the exact situation right now with the Strait of Hormuz, but that all that fear of kind of the oil and gas not being able to be transported out of the Strait of Hormuz, I haven't seen much of that rhetoric in the last few weeks. So I have to think that somehow there is some sort of flow happening, and they are able to get some stuff out right now, because it used to be plastered on the timeline everywhere on the news.
It's much quieter now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's much quieter. You'd see now the problem is maybe that's just because nothing's changed. And actually, that's a very bad thing if that is the case, because if nothing's changed, then that means that we still have a big problem. And as we said before, when oil and gas is held up, it's a lag effect. It doesn't hit you immediately. The markets panic immediately, and the market is impacted immediately for the price of oil, etc. But it doesn't actually hit the countries until they start running out of their oil and gas reserves. That's when it really hits. So anyway, that's consumed me. I just feel like the market has it wrong right now. I really do, and I feel like we're going to see a surprising end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Simon. Any thoughts on that?
No, I was thinking when you said that, we're doing our thing, aren't we? Where we're making our lives go faster and faster.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for October now.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. And also, there's something about the world of crypto and obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum down. And yet, as we'll talk about later, it's funny how the NFT ecosystem just keeps battling on, doesn't it? It keeps doing its thing regardless. I actually did put into ChatGPT or wherever it was, or Grok. Is the NFT space in a sense decoupling? Says there are times when it doesn't rely on the crypto market and people keep aping into NFTs. But we'll see. But whatever happens, NFTs are exciting regardless.
Yeah, I
100%.
think it's like I can understand why people feel despondent. I mean, I saw a post that I think it was uh, the the Bitcoin wizard or something. I can't actually remember the name of whoever posted it, but they did, it was like a clip from The Revenant, and it was like people buying Bitcoin in 2021 for 69,000, holding for 5 years, and now it's at 67,000. So they're down 3.5%. And then you think about the journey that people have been on. They've watched gold have a run. They've watched silver have a run. I mean, I'm seeing guys like young guys at the gym, and people I'm hearing about at the cricket club and stuff like that who are buying physical silver. I'm like, these guys are in their mid-20s. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Then stocks have had a run, and we've kind of just sat there, and Bitcoin's kind of gone above all-time highs, and then obviously retraced. So I can understand why people feel despondent, because this is meant to be the exponential asset. This is meant to be the thing that is meant to be risk on. Donald Trump's meant to be the pro-business president. It's funny. I have read some of the stuff, just some of the sound bites out of The Art of the Deal, and one of the things he says if you get very loud about something, and it plays out, the act plays. Like if you say something, and then it plays out, then obviously people trust you. And what he's been doing, which is very interesting, and I read between the lines of his tweets, which is he says we will never let the crypto industry down. And I'm like, and I think this guy is far more in control of asset prices than people give him credit for, because I mean, I'm sure he could implement some policy with the US all of a sudden just start buying Bitcoin or start converting, I don't know, some of the their gold storage into BTC, and they are already. I mean, they are. I think the last time I checked, they had like 300,000 Bitcoin or something like that, and they've got twice the amount of China, whereas before it was like level pegging. So I can understand why people feel despondent. I think one of the things I am noticing, certainly over the last 2 years, is that a lot of people went really risk on. So a lot of people kind of went a little bit further out on the risk curve. I mean, we did it between us. We got into the punk strategy trade. We leaned into NFTs, which is as far down the risk curve as possible. But a lot of people became pot committed to microcap tokens, and the problem is that they bleed the most, and you have the most pain. And I think that's where the kind of despondency comes in for a lot of people. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, Tom, because you usually have a.
I was going to ask you a question actually about, because you mentioned earlier that you're getting real traction on TikTok, getting a lot of views, and you've been having some one-to-one conversations, etc., which sounds brilliant. And I just wondered, what you're picking up in that space about investments in crypto and what people are saying and thinking.
It's interesting that obviously we live in our own little world of NFTs, but the XRP and the ISO tokens, like Quant, XLM, HBAR, these kind of like ones that we don't even like look at, are gathering a large mind share. So these are like they're interoperable payment layer networks. That obviously people need to they think TradFi are going to adopt it, and it's basically going to drive transaction fees, which is going to increase the price. That's the premise of it. Obviously, XRP is kind of like they think it's going to take over the Swift banking system. There's a whole bunch of people getting into XRP, obviously. So these are like kind of assets that you hear about, but you start to realize when you do the content and you start doing live streams, especially over on TikTok, because you get instant feedback from people in the comments.
Yes.
You can see that it's gathering a mind share, probably far more than NFTs. Like a lot of people,
I was going to ask you about that, about
yeah.
what people were saying, if people are really even mentioning NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, like I think NFTs are definitely off the radar for a lot of people, and I think, however, there's a trend of people buying NFTs and not realizing they're NFTs because they're buying these from these loot and gacha platforms, and they're getting the digital receipt, not realizing that maybe if it's from Panini, they have their own blockchain and they're issuing these 3D rendered images, which are actually NFTs. So people are buying these things up, and obviously they're buying it. There's no hiding place for the buying activity. I just looked on NFT scan, and I can see some of the blue chip activity in the last month is increasing again. So it's happening. The NFT stuff is happening, but I think this is going to be in everything, everywhere, all at once type thing. You know, it's going to be like everyone's going to look like a genius again when their coin pops off. When the reality is, it's going to be everything just popping off at different times.
Yes. Are people mentioning in TikTok when they're speaking to you anything to do with Hyperliquid? Because that's been on my timeline a lot. That's that coming through a lot.
Yeah. Hyperliquid is another one. You've got Zcash, which is another one. Tau, Hyperliquid, and then these ISO tokens. And then there's a couple of others, like people kind of clinging on to Polkadot and Cardano and a couple of these ones, which I think do well, you know, like obviously, but the thing is, you know as well as like the coins aren't that fun. They're just not that interesting. It's like, what joy do you get out of the coins apart from you want to get, in fact, the only thing I think about the coins is in the back of my mind, I think, well, if these go up, maybe I can rotate it into ETH and then I can buy NFTs. That's my only, that's my only thought process.
I know.
That's my only thought process around it. So, but I'm still very bullish on Sui, and my thesis around Sui has always been that it's a layer one, and all these layer ones are a cheat code. I don't know, guys. Just 26 of you who are listening in, obviously really appreciate it. Just do us a massive favor wherever you are. Just share the stream out. Would really appreciate it. Obviously, Simon or Burge, if you just give it a repost as well, I think that'll give a bit of a
sure, will do.
Background. I don't know if my screen's stuck. Is that, does it say 27 on yours? 27 viewers on yours, or
Burge? What have you got?
I see it. Yeah, about 27. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Sui for me it looks like the next cab off the rank. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Burge or Simon, but the layer ones are just in my opinion, the easiest thing to lean into, because it's a cheat code, because any applications built out in that network, you're capturing whatever the value is. And then you look at the team and you look at some of the anecdotal stuff, like, you know, Raoul Pal's on the advisory board, the token's got a low float. I understood the layer one play with Solana, and I understood it with Ethereum, and I just understand it now with Sui, and I just think it outperforms. So those are my thoughts.
I didn't know too much about it. I don't know about you, Burge. What's your thoughts on that with Sui?
I don't know too much about Sui.
Well, there you go. So my two co-hosts don't know anything about it. So this shows you what the mind share is.
XRP though, going back to what you said about XRP, that was something that was pushed a lot. I remember buying a small amount of XRP and it going up like 4 or 5x. When everything else was staying quite flat. So that kind of bucked a trend. And XRP has this narrative, but like you said, of like replacing the modern banking system with you know crypto. But the other thing, kind of combating the anti-Bitcoin kind of sentiment, is SpaceX came out. You said about the US government. Well, SpaceX actually came out, and because obviously they're filing to be a public company, they have to list, you know, what assets they have, and they came out that they had like $1.2 billion in Bitcoin, in Bitcoin holdings that they just held. So, you know, someone like Elon Musk and the impact that he has in the world, whether you like him or not, him being a big kind of pro crypto guy and pro Bitcoin guy is going to have an impact. And I think, you know, when we start to see X try and live its dream of becoming the everything app and try and tie finance and transactions into the app that we know and love, I think it's going to be through this crypto layer, which will be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you both something just quickly, Jaden and Burge. What do you think? It's very much say in a nutshell. Well, you can't really do it in a nutshell, but what do you think is the reason for the pullback in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the prices at the moment specifically?
Well, I've got an opinion on it, Burge, unless you want to dive in, but I think it's clear to me that obviously this Iran thing is the sole reason, because as soon as Trump came out and said, look, it doesn't look like we're going to get a solution to it. He was going to do the blockade again or something. I think the market looks into that and says, okay, this is going to be more prolonged, and then people take money out of risk assets and then they drop down. But Bitcoin was consolidating for the last 14 weeks. So we had this long consolidation period during the war. So it felt like it was priced in. Any good news that was coming out of the Iran situation was probably going to send prices higher. Then you can kind of see, okay, you got Kevin Walsh coming in. He's going to be a bit more dovish on business conditions, because there's now, it looks like there's clear signals now that he wants businesses to be able to deploy capital expenditure into AI. Because now this is not just about interest rates and inflation. This is a race between America and China to win the AI race. But businesses need money to be able to spend in these operations. And for that to happen, interest rates need to come down. And some of the things he has been saying is there's room for rates to come down, because he thinks that also the AI is improving business conditions, but you can't see it in the data. So it'll keep a lid on inflation. So there's a whole bunch of things to look at, but it's definitely the geopolitical stuff. It's a little bit of the memetics of people playing the 4-year cycle. Somewhat ironically, people say the 4-year cycle is dead, but we're probably going to get to a stage where this pumps just when we would expect it if you were playing the 4-year cycle, which is pretty strange. Strange.
And it is summer, and it sounds a bit basic, but this happens in the summer too, right?
Yeah.
As well, there is the summer effect.
It usually happens every June. It happens. We have this aggressive drawdown for whatever reason, and then it picks up again.
Remember in 21 that happened actually. 2021 did it.
Stocks, gold and silver, they've been so strong as well. So it's like you've always got this kind of opportunity cost when you're investing of like, well, if all my eggs are in crypto right now, and it's just hemorrhaging constantly, it's just going down and down and down and down, then you're looking over the other pastures and you're seeing stocks just have these all-time highs, just go crazy. You're seeing even gold and silver, as you said earlier, going absolutely bonkers. It's like, well, naturally a lot of those people, a lot of investors are very like, they flip-flop, and if they see more opportunity in stocks and they see crypto getting hammered, they're going to flip. They're going to go to the other side. You're only going to see when crypto starts to kind of pick up again, that money come flooding back in.
But we didn't. It's funny, but like, whilst we are saying this now, I remember Ethereum getting to less than $1,000 during that, or it might have got just down to 1,000 during that 2021 bull run. But we were so distracted by NFTs. NFTs were dropping. In fact, I remember that happening and me going, "Oh shit, I can buy NFTs for cheaper."
Yes.
And instead of
and everyone you see it repricing on OpenSea. Everyone's like, "Oh shit, I got to delist this and list it higher because it's no, so people would just buy them up."
But this is the thing, and now I kind of sense that obviously the cat's a little bit more out the bag. Obviously, we've assigned these things. These things now have value, but for a lot of people, their hopes and dreams are tied up in it. Even the NFT stuff. But the thing is that it's like what you say, Simon, about folding time in half. It's just like, find some joy in the space outside of the price appreciation, because that time, you need the time to appreciate. But if you keep going, oh, wait till the end of the year, and then you look back at it, and actually your sole purpose is just waiting for your fucking crypto to go up. It's it can be a little bit.
I know. Well, it's a bit like having a job which you don't like, and all you do is wait for the weekends.
And you wait for your end of year bonus. Mate, I know that life.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But...
And actually, why not enjoy your actual job? And the job is in this it would be equated to an enjoy of NFTs.
talk about anti-Bitcoin or anti-crypto sentiment. I've just seen 4 posts back to back on my timeline, and they are the following. They are: Tom Lee's Bitmine Ethereum investment is currently at an $8.7 billion unrealized loss. There's this guy here who's posted a video saying that Google are, making great progress in solving quantum computing, and that the chances of Bitcoin and Ethereum being resistant have fallen to 50%. And then you've got BlackRock sells 388 million worth of Bitcoin, and then you've got this community note below it saying, actually, no, they didn't sell it. That's just the outflows. This guy's an idiot. And then you've got this guy who's memeing the whole thing, and he says, when Saylor buys 2,000 Bitcoins, and he's got this little graphic of like a tiny uptick, and then it goes, when Saylor sells 32 Bitcoins, and this massive red candle. And it's like there's no wonder that the market is crashing when this is pumped on your timeline, and that people actually this actually affects most people. But for the real smart investors out there, they look at this, and this is all noise. This is all noise. You don't listen to any of this shit.
No, exactly.
I was going to come on to the Michael Saylor thing. Obviously, he's sold some Bitcoin. I think it's slightly more symbolic, the stuff that's happening on the timeline, because he basically tells people not to sell, and now he's selling. So people think it's kind of contradictory, even though the amount that he's selling should have no impact to the price. When he was buying $1 billion a day worth of Bitcoin, it was having no, like you say with your meme thing, Burge, it was having no impact on the price on the way up. And then he sells 32 however
32 32 Bitcoin,
32 Bitcoin, that's it,
which is like $2.5 million or whatever. I don't know,
mate. He's probably got that down the side of the couch. Like it's completely pointless amount, but the whole timeline blows up and says, well, he said not to sell and blah blah blah. I remember the last time he sold, and it wasn't as amplified. It was, and actually sold a shit ton more. I think he sold a few. It was definitely, I don't know whether it was 10 million worth of Bitcoin, but he sold it as a tax loss harvesting thing, to basically, because he bought it high. He bought that particular Bitcoin high, and then it dropped low, and then he decided to sell it. And then obviously offset against his tax bill, which it was a tax efficiency thing. It was, and that's the way he was doing. But this time it seemed a lot more amplified, just because of his kind of the way he's going about his Bitcoin buying strategy, using debt to leverage it, and also the stock, which is interesting. You mentioned Tom Lee. Obviously, I've got a video on here. He's another one that's been absolutely scrutinized in the media. But obviously, we've had recently Mark Cuban sell his Bitcoin, or kind of rage quit out of Bitcoin. And this is Tom Lee getting interviewed because he is currently down. This is usually we do these only 1 minute, but just if you can hang in there, guys, about 2 minutes long.
Mark Cuban said that he's now dumped or sold all of his Bitcoin, given that he no longer believes it's acting as a hedge against inflation or anything else. Argues gold has proven to be a better bet, and that Bitcoin has not acted the way it should if it's supposed to be digital gold. What say you?
Well, on the one hand, I think Mark is right. Crypto's been disappointing because crypto should move with, equity markets, and it should be rallying with software. Software has really started to rally big, and crypto hasn't moved. So I think there are what I call, quote, rage quitting, people selling here as if something is wrong. I mean, one, I think that's what always happens at the end of crypto winter. If someone asks me, is the thesis for Bitcoin or Ethereum broken? It's absolutely not, because one, the more work we do, and we're hearing it from founders like Palantir, Bitcoin and Ethereum are really the future of money, because mass and compute, or compute and energy, however Elon puts it, really are what's scarce. And you're going to need to control agent systems. And as AI systems evolve, right, we're now talking about using commerce and operating websites. You need decentralized identity and verification. That's really what crypto does. And we know Wall Street wants to go towards tokenization. It's a vast improvement in efficiency of actually how money moves. And it's an innovation. Well, that only happens on Bitcoin and Ethereum and other smart contracts. So the future isn't changed, but the spotlight today is, of course, on semis, memory, starting on software. But as people focus downstream into the future, that's really, I think, when the bid comes for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Because when you talk about,
I have to say, having seen all these posts of Tom Lee, he actually speaks very well. I've seen all these, the guys you see, like they take a bad picture of him, or they take just this like kind of wacky pose that he's doing on a stage, and they go, "Oh, by the way, he said this audacious thing that Ethereum's going to 10K." Like I don't actually know if I've heard him speak many times or ever before. And
that's the most sensible I've heard him.
That's the most sensible, and I actually kind of feel like he's quite clever. And maybe,
Simon, you and I had a chat about this, about like these outlandish predictions, and we actually had a bit of a theory going that they're just doing it to generate attention because they know that people, it will rage bait people who are maybe anti-Ethereum. But what it was actually doing is driving attention to his company Bitmine, who are buying up this, and obviously people might be investing in the company. But it's just a truism of everything, which is it's just attention that leads to buying flows.
Yes, and done with supreme confidence and it's like I love him for it because he it doesn't matter. Yes, okay, Bitmine did buy Ethereum, I think a few days ago, quite a lot of it, and yes, Ethereum has gone down again, but nevertheless, I will keep going and get out there in front of the media and tell people how brilliant it is. And I mean, I do believe in Ethereum, and I do believe in what its capability, its potential, of course. But it's just that he's a bit like Raoul Powell in the fact that very good speakers, highly intelligent, they're not necessarily right, but they make themselves sound like they are.
No,
and they have a good thesis on the macro. Macro.
That's what I was listening to there. The macro, what he was painting, and it seemed that made so much sense. Like that's what I believe as well.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's a trend. There's a trend of people in TradFi doing that, and I don't know if it's because it's this pent up thing that they weren't allowed to do that in TradFi, where they couldn't. You imagine you work for like in the UK, you work for a FTSE company, or in the US, you work for a listed company. You can't say anything about the stock price because it's like insider. But now you own your own company. You've got this buying strategy where you're buying this crypto. You've got a vested interest in making sure it goes up. So then what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to make an outlandish prediction like Tom Lee did. I think he said 10 grand by the end of January. This was in December. He was saying this in December because I remember doing a research piece on it. And he was like, no, definitely 10. It's got to be. It's always Q1. And this is where we do the whole folding time in half thing. It's like, Q1 is going to get to 10 grand. And then I'm thinking, okay. But now, obviously, I see through that. Obviously, both
That's
of you
ridiculous. He said Q1 to 10K is ridiculous.
I shit
it's
you
never
not.
going to happen.
Exactly. I shit you not. I reckon half of crypto Twitter put a calendar thing on their thing just to message him saying, see, now. But actually, the reality was it was the attention and the headlines it drove. Because all the media headlines were like Tom Lee's predicting 10K, Tom Lee's predicting this, his Bitmine is buying it up. No. And then it drives the attention flows. And then obviously people are buying up the fucking stock.
And what do you think would happen if you said to him quietly, with his friends, maybe out for a drink, you keep saying these things and it never happens. How do you feel about that, Tom? I wonder what he'd actually say. But I don't care. I've got a lot of money. I don't really care. I don't know what he would say.
But Simon, he got interviewed on like the 25th of January or something. And they're like, this prediction that you've made about 10K. And I think Ethereum must have been like just under 3K or something. He's like, this prediction that you've made about Ethereum getting to I think it was 8, 9 or 10K or something. This was like, okay, I don't want to embellish it or whatever, but he got interviewed like on the 23rd or the 24th of Jan. He's like, there's still the end of the month to go. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This guy can't be serious. And he's doing it with a straight face. This is why when you noticed that's his first kind of serious interview. And actually, it's the first time I've ever heard him say it's quite disappointing crypto performing like the way it is. And I'm like, well, first fucking grain of truth. Well done, my friend.
Why don't we ask if Adam can get him to be part of Token Works? Get him involved.
Yeah.
Get Tom Lee into get him into the NFT space.
Chief marketer.
Just before we segue on to NFTs, I just want to say a massive thank you to Wild Honey, who 78.eth, who joins in every week, reposts the stream every week, and also David Chidgey, who's dived in and also shared the stream. Guys, wherever you're listening to it from, just do me a massive favor. Please just give it a share. Would really appreciate it. Also, Tay's just shared it now that I'm giving out the plaudits to people who are sharing. Well done, Tay. Really proud of you. No, I'm only joking. Guys, I want to segue on to obviously the most fun part of crypto. And this is, I did a post today where I said, I know that NFTs are going to do very well because the social connection I get through NFTs. If you look at the three of us, we've met through NFTs. They just do more than coins. And they're like, if you're getting into collectibles, they're kind of collectibles on steroids because you get the community aspect. You get a built-in friendship group of people who like to collect the same things. It's just obvious to me. But how are you guys feeling about the current state of NFTs? I think last couple of weeks, it kind of felt like things were picking up and then it just drops down a little bit. And it feels like, to steal a Raoul Pal phrase, it feels like the beach ball held underwater. How are you guys feeling about NFTs? Tay, I shared ages ago. Tay, never let the truth get away with a good story, mate. This is an entertainment show, my friend.
Tay's probably just mad because he sees me buying apples.
Yeah.
And actually, just quickly, I'll just say I've actually purchased 3 more apples. I'm up to 18 now. 18
Wow.
You might have to give that a bit of context, Burge.
Yeah. So,
Burge, we'll come on to that in a second. Let's just stick with the general market stuff at the moment. How are you guys feeling about the NFT market?
I feel like it's ripe for a pump. I think.
Are we still talking about NFTs? Because what you do on your weekends is your business, mate.
Well, I think NFTs for a while we've gone through this like extended bear market, right, of 4-5 years now, and I think it's kind of settled into this kind of like people feel like it should have a revival at some point, and I think given the macro stuff I was talking about earlier of, I think the market has it wrong. I think that market conditions are going to improve. I think the next time crypto goes has a big surge, I think NFTs is also going to take off as well. So, and I think we've seen a lot of healthy behavior. If you really think about it, in the last 6 to 12 months, we've seen a lot of consolidation, a lot of people, rotating into these more proven blue chip projects. And I just, the funniest thing about NFTs is people calling them a fad. People saying like, these things were a fad. They've not done anything. Like no one talks about them anymore. And yet, when you actually go and look at these projects like CurioCars or CryptoPunks or Bored Ape or VFriends, you will see that these are still assets that are trading for significant amount of money. I mean, VFriends Series 1 has a floor of like $3,000+. Punks are trading at $60,000 to $70,000. Bored Apes are 8 or 9 Ethereum. So what's that? Like maybe 20K, around 20K. Like these are still trading at significant values, and that alone is exactly why it's primed. It's primed for when market conditions improve to go, because
no one knows what a fucking NFT is.
Yeah,
I know we live in this little echo chamber where we think this is the only thing that can ever exist, but no one knows what a fucking NFT is. And
you were saying on TikTok,
70 grand.
You're saying on TikTok streams, people don't even talk about it. It's not in there. People aren't thinking about it right now. But that narrative changes very quickly as soon as you start to see a bit of a bull run emerge, because then all of those people on TikTok that are talking about these coins, and crypto might be popping off as well, and they will still talk about the coins. But when they start to see NFTs go crazy, people will flood back in. It will happen. It will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on? Because I know you're very tuned in, especially into some of the newer mints and stuff that's going on.
Yes. Well, first of all, I might have mentioned it last week as well, but it's definitely happening. Is that there just seems to be more mints and art collections, so forth,
Yeah.
so forth coming up. But as we all said actually before we went live, we all have different timelines, don't we? And we have different experiences of what's happening, which is actually quite useful. And I've noticed that there's a lot more almost mania about these mints. It has mini 2021 vibes in terms of people are jumping into lots of these new mints. They're flipping, which, you know, I'm just can't ever do really. I'm rubbish, but I'm getting excited by the fact that there are these genuinely good small collections coming out actually, which I really like. And I think what's emerging a little bit, someone said this on X today, they said, look, it's getting a bit mad, everyone. You know, everyone's jumping and flipping, but it isn't 2021. And you're flipping for about $20. What are you actually doing? I mean, people can do what they like, clearly, but it just seems a bit silly. And that's the only word I can use for it, really.
But I think those people don't have the context of 2021. So
no, they don't.
They don't. It's like you know, I've seen a few people, even in the Carrot Lane private group, where they kind of get into something because they can see value, and then they flip out of it, maybe for a 2 or 3x, and then it goes up even higher, and then you kind of get burnt a little bit. And but you can't see anything observable, but your original thesis was right in the beginning. So just see the thing through. I agree. Play financial conditions, not the individual project, because if there's value there, and because the thing with people is, and I can't remember who that fucking Pete, someone or another. I can't remember the really brilliant investor. He says that like your average person has got superpower skills, even above people in Wall Street, at finding value. It's like, because most of them are just consumers of a product. And if you become a consumer, I think Peter Lynch, that's it. He invested in Dunkin' Donuts. And the reason why he invested in Dunkin' Donuts is because he was in the queue and he liked the coffee and he liked the donuts. And he was like, shit, these things are busy and the queues are busy.
And McDonald's, the guy who invested and took McDonald's to that franchise, he was also a consumer, and he was like, wait a minute, this is great.
Yeah. And this is the thing. It's like people, but then it becomes, why are you trade like you say, Simon? Why are you doing it for like a $20 thing? I know, fine, if you want to get a bit of a dopamine thing and you want to feel like you're winning and it's a bit of fun for you, then that's fine. But
just be aware of what you're doing. I think, you know, be deliberate in what you're doing. We always say don't get caught between two stools, trading or collecting. But for me, just going back to that theme of what I'm noticing, I think it's hopeful that there is that interest. It may well just be the same small number of people doing this and just circulating around different assets. But what I find really interesting for me is that, you know, there are so many mints, so many coming out that they can't possibly all be relevant and lasting. So if you do choose something you really like I really did like and do like very much the Beaks, which is a small art collection by, you know, an established artist, Dima Kastanian, I think he is. He's been around doing some really big stuff around the world for 20 years. Now, if you're going to do that and get into that, obviously you buy what you like. That's what I do. I try not to buy what I might try and flip. But what happens is people buy them, and then within about 3 days it drops, of course, because that tends to happen. And then they start going crazy in Discord, which is why I really don't like Discord. And they start becoming really entitled. And it's like they're blaming the artist and the founder for the fact the price has dropped. And what are you going to do? What are you planning? What's going on? And it's a thankless task if you're a founder and an artist. And for me,
artist especially,
and an artist. Now, unless someone has promised unequivocally something about what they're going to do and they failed to meet that promise, then fair enough, you know, you can have a bit of a go at someone. But to have a go at artists and founders purely because you placed a bet on a price going up and then it didn't, it's just outrageous.
And so
I kind of just moved, exactly, and this is what I'm seeing quite a lot in Discord, and
but I think
why I quite like the art collection, because although I am seeing it in that Discord, because I just really, really like it. And one last thing to say on that. For me, if I'm going to invest in something that comes out new, as opposed to what we tend to say is look at the historical established collections, if you're going to do that, then give it a chance, for God's sake. You know, you go in for about 3 or 4 days, you don't like the price, you dump it and move on to the next shiny thing. Well, what's ironic is about 2 or 3 months later, if you'd stuck with it and actually been a proper community member and supported it because you loved it, it starts to go up again and you've missed it. So, you know, still stick with it for a little while, unless you are a conscious flipper and trader, then fair enough.
People always used to trade for like, you'd see them and like you said, like trade for like a $20 profit. It always used to happen. I mean, I even remember when VFriends was minting out and then they first got put back onto OpenSea, people were selling for like cost or barely above cost. They weren't making much, but at the same thing, like you can't necessarily make a judgment on if someone sells for a $20 profit, because sometimes you might think obviously that's not worth doing, but then you don't know, maybe that person is actually a trader and they bought 100 of those NFTs, and maybe they're not selling even all 100 for a $20 profit. Maybe they're selling gradually, they're selling across a curve, so they sell as it goes up. So, you know, it's gone up $20. Okay, I'm going to sell 10 of my 100, then it goes up to $50 or $30. I'm going to sell another 10, and they end up making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in a bear market on one project. That's not bad at all.
No, I mean, I've got no problem with that. I think that's perfectly fine. It's when you have people in Discords or on X having a go at a founder because the price dropped, and then and it all becomes pump my bags. What are you going to do for me? And then I slowly retreat out of those discussions.
I think which is why I like the way that Gary went quiet, because it shook out a lot of people from VFriends. I think there's a healthier ecosystem there around collecting and leaning into the stories and stuff. But I also think there is an onus on the founders. There is an onus on the founders because they do have to realize now, because we've had a bit of a runway, that there is a financial aspect to this. I mean, I asked Betty about it. I asked Jacob at Chimps about it. I've asked a few people. I've asked Tigeo around, you know, how do they feel about people are going to buy this with the expectation of going up? That is just a fact. So that's the psychology of the buyer. Yes, they can like the art. Yes, they want to do it as a collectible thing. But the vast majority of people want to buy things that go up in price. They want to buy collectibles that go up in price, not down. So there is an onus on the founders to have something in place, in my opinion. If it's just art, then that's completely different. But if it's an IP play, especially when there's a royalty baked into the contract, because they're making money on secondary sales.
Agreed.
It's like, okay, well, what is the plan? I've really liked what Good Vibes Club are doing with their treasury and obviously the strategy token. I thought it was very good because it keeps the value locked in the system and it allows value adds for. I think someone just left a comment. Morning, fellas. Someone over on LinkedIn. But the adding value back to the holders, and I've asked a couple of people this, which is there may well be a world in some of those IP plays that survive from 2021 where the prices go up to 3, 4, 5 Ethereum, 10 ETH, because it's just too much. There's too much of a supply crunch, and there may be too much demand that comes in, especially for those legacy IP projects. I say legacy because they're from 2021. But then what does the founder do for the people that buy at 5 ETH? Or do they just let it run out? Do they just go, okay, you guys are buying?
That's a good question. What's the obligation? It's an interesting debate about that. I do think, just one last thing to finish off that the artist's kind of perspective, if you like. I think you're right with IP. If you're making a play and you're bigging something up, then you've got to see it through, or you expect repercussions. But Dimmer Kashtalian, who was the one who did the Beaks, this 1,100 NFT collection, it was really interesting. For a couple of days, he was saying, I've been in Web 2, you know, exhibitions around the world. I'm adventuring this. And I know he's making money out of it, and of course, but he did say, I'm really in two minds about having a Discord or not. I think he had real concerns, and he did open a Discord, but only for people who were collectors. And it's been fine in there. But what I have noticed is you will still get then And I was thinking, oh God, you poor old
Yeah.
fucker. You know, you're now getting people going, what's going on? Why haven't I? Why has it gone down? And I suppose at that point, I think, well, the artist, let's not put artists off coming into this space.
Yeah.
Because they get completely inundated. If they're an IP play, then that's a different thing. But if it's art, let's just be careful on how we handle artists coming into the space.
I noticed, and I just want to bring some value to the 66 people that are listening here. I noticed, Simon, you're early onto some of these NFT projects. I've just looked on NFT calendar. There's 12 minting today. There's 19 up and coming. And there's 72 still waiting to mint out.
That's
so there's
crazy, isn't it?
There's a lot of projects. I mean, but if you, in the grand scheme of things, it's still kind of small. But what's your process for looking at these things and searching for NFTs or new mints? Because if you get into something early, it can be a significant thing. And I know you got into Del Mondo's quite early. Obviously, you've just purchased the Doodles, which is pretty interesting. And then obviously this Beaks project you've got into. So, like, how do you find these things? How are you searching for them? What's your kind of process?
I tend to personally, I don't know what anyone else does, is things start appearing on timeline or in different groups, and then I'll go and do, I'm sure what a lot of people will do is go and look at, if it's an artist, really look into their art and what they're doing out there.
Yeah.
And like we've always said, Burge and Jaden, we've always said, if you can find glimpses of just through articles they've written or stories about them where they've got real class and integrity, and you pick up something about their personality as well as their art, if we're talking about artists, or there's just something you really drawn to, that's a massive plus for me. And then when I actually see the art evolving that they're creating, and for example with this one, just the style of art is so intricate and obviously painstaking, then that draws me in. But then finally it's very simple. Do I really love this art? And we're all slightly crazy about NFTs, probably all completely mad, really. But that's what draws me in. So there's something about integrity. What feel do I get for the person? If it was an NFT collection, what am I getting from the founders? Because we've already said, haven't we? We talk Jacob from Chimpers and all the different people you've interviewed, Jaden, and the common denominator is how you feel about the person when you're listening to them. What do you get from them? And the two areas I look for in any person is in business is their credibility. Are they credible in terms of their knowledge, skills, and appreciation of business, for example? And do I warm to them as a human being? Are they a good soul? Do they have integrity? And then maybe they're two really obvious stuff, but they're the two. If they're really aligned, those two elements, that draws me in.
It feels like worlds apart from where we were in 2021, where you didn't know anything about the founder. Now it's like, hold on,
you just jumped in. Yes.
Now it's like we've got to know their story. We've got to. In fact, the transparency is more celebrated than it was in 2021.
And that's why you, Jaden, doing your interviews that we're generating, you've done in the past, I think is such a great opportunity to get to understand the person or the people behind the product.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously when I do the research for it, I listen to their other interviews, and a lot of the other interviews are geared around, what's this activation that you got, or what's this next thing that you got going on, and no one actually asks about the person. It's like, hold on, you've got fucking 10,000 you got 5,000 holders here, or whatever the project is, and no one ever asks about the person. Like, okay, how did you start this? What were you thinking? Tell me a little bit about the adversity that you went through. I thought Betty's was a great story because
absolutely
the 3 kids running around the fucking house, and she's got like, I think they were losing work, and then they decided to do this project, and then they're getting up at 6 a.m. and working to midnight or whatever. And then they launch it, and then she's saying like, listen, I knew this was going to be a thing. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, like in 2021 or 2022, we were still debating whether this stuff would have value or whatever. And you knew it was going to be a thing. And then it plays out, which I think is really interesting. And it's the same. It's like, the 2 lads at Chimpers, they're both working class guys. They've had very humble beginnings. They get into the space at 18. No one takes them seriously because they're 2 kids. Now they've just created one of probably the most significant UK NFT projects. And there's all these stories out there of these people. Adam Weitzman's got a fascinating story. He's very public about, he went to prison and all these different things. So these are the people that we can, and I just love digging into like the backgrounds, because everyone's got
I do. And that with Michael Figge, who obviously now CEO at Yuga, I've met him a few times at just the 10K TF events. So it's people who are prepared to get out there and connect with people in real life events as well. And they're just people who've got a passion like we have for this space, and they're doing some great things. And actually with that, there, of course, there's NFC Lisbon at the moment, isn't it? So there'll be people all getting together. It'll be fascinated to see how this week goes actually on that.
But I just want to bring the conversation onto you. I can see you looking at your screen at the moment. I don't know what you're picking up there, but anything on the NFT stuff, bud?
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of it. I mean, I think Chimpers has done a really good job. In fact, actually, I haven't heard too much from Good Vibes Club recently but Chimpers is just so consistent in terms of pushing out these new things. And I think, when they redid their whole website, they kind of tried to lean into more of this lore, try and create more lore around the IP. And then and now they're trying to really bring meaning to the different traits in their collection. I think that matters a lot. I think a lot of times that's like NFT collections aren't fully utilizing their project, their IP that they've created. You got all of these traits, but a lot of the times these traits don't mean much because they were only created to make the NFTs different, and then they kind of just like they forget about them. But Chimpers are really trying to make these traits matter in different ways, and I think that will play out really well for them. Also, I just want to point out as well, we talked about them launching that Chimpers shop the other day, other live stream. I think that was last week.
Yeah.
Mystery Tea Box is sold out. That was $50, by the way, per Mystery Tea Box. That's sold out. I don't know how many units that was, but it's sold out on the shop. The mug, I thought the mug would do well. The mug at $12 has sold out. The sticker pack, I definitely didn't think that would sell out. It hasn't, but it's on low stock. $6 for a sticker pack, and the fridge magnet is still in stock. It's just, I think,
interesting.
I mean, regardless of if that's 100 units or 1,000 units, I mean, hopefully it's not 10 units. I don't think it is. I think it's probably somewhere around the 1,000 units, right? Or like 500 units, let's say. But that's impressive, like that's a revenue generator. Like if you sold 300 mystery tea boxes at $50 each, what's that? $15,000? I mean, what other projects are really ensuring that they're making these revenue generating streams of income that will help make it a business? Like that's important. And the big thing that we pointed out with Chimpers Shop was that it was tapping into the Web 2 following. It wasn't just staying in that Web 3 lane, which Chimpers is very active Web 3 wise. Yeah, but Chimpers, like Good Vibes Club, very active on the Web 3 front, but also here the Chimpers Shop really playing, I think, to the Web 2 crowd, hopefully. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, but did you see Spencer from Moonbirds? Obviously, he started this thing of these blind boxes, and obviously, and then obviously, and he had a bit of he was saying, a whole bunch of people are copying me and blah blah blah. And I think they sold 10,000 of them, so they sold out of these things. And then obviously he gets on the live stream with Gary, and this is the thing that Gary was talking about. And it's really interesting. Like Gary comes in with this Gary V comes in with this third alternative view, which is people are doing these blind boxes. They're selling these things out, but they've not solidified the stories of the characters.
Yes.
So what he was saying, what Gary was saying in the live stream, he says, listen, you can do this now, but later down the line, you're going to end up, and he did the bird analogy. He said, basically, you're going to end up with shit on your shoulder, because you're pushing out these blind boxes. People are buying them, but there's no actual connection. There's no connection with the. And I'm not saying that with Chimpers. I'm not saying, but it's just like if you're going to do this, and it's interesting the way he did it was he started with those gumball machines. Hey, Burge.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started with those with those machines. He had them in every single state.
The minis, yeah.
The minis, and then they open it up, and there's a piece of paper in there with a QR code. You hit the QR code, and it plays a video and animation. And
It
now
was very tactical.
you're getting connected to the character. Then it was like, then scale the merch. Because now people are getting connected to the character and they know that's Rare Robot or that's fucking Patient.
And the comic books as well. They've been popping off. These comic books sell out at $25, $20 a pop, right? They're now reselling at $100.
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm making around the thing selling. I'm saying that he's putting out the story first.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of these projects are leading with merch first. And yes, you can have the eyeballs. Yes, you can sell out of stuff on the front end. But what Gary was saying is you're going to end up with shit on your shoulder because a load of people are going to have a load of stuff they have no connection with. And
yes,
what was a real eye opener for me is it was actually something you picked up on, Burge, when you were, because you do your eBay thing and this reselling, is the reselling of the plushie toys like with Pudgy Penguins. Pudgy Penguins, every single person in here engages with the Pudgy Penguins IP, and the plushie toys are selling. There's millions of these selling at Walmart, but if you look at the resale on eBay, there's none of these things reselling because there's no connection with the characters because they got no meaning apart from a cute little toy that they were doing for Valentine's Day or whatever. And that's not to dunk on Pudgy Penguins, but it's just, this is where you've got your superstar and your fucking elite. You've got the goat, you've got the goats, and you've got the stars. And it's just like, and as far as I'm like, listen, I don't want to like fucking put Gary Vee on a pedestal or anything, but he's the fucking goat. And this, when he was saying that, I was like, this is where these guys are fucking up because they're putting out the merch. They want to show the high level stuff that they've done, the collaborations with Walmart, and they've done all these things. And Gary's there saying, well, no, I've had the same offers, but I'm turning them down. Like, this is like, it's really interesting, the business strategy around this. And the law of averages says with every new technology, we had it in 2000, we had it with loads of different technologies, is that one of these big ones is going to fail.
Yeah.
So yes, it's got the network adoption models of people holding the tokens, but one of these big businesses has to fail.
Yeah.
Well, this looks like a little bit of a blind spot while we're fucking pumping it up, going, yeah, they're selling. So it's interesting to see how it plays out.
I think Chimpers have got what you were saying earlier, Burge, about their consistency and graft and hard work. It reminds me a little bit of Gary, actually. Always out there, always consistent. They're always around, always feels like they're amongst everyone. I always get from Jacob, independent, which I'm sure he does with lots of people, updates, purely private messages, which he must be grafting and doing for so many people. Just to say, a little reminder to let you know, we've got the online shop coming up, or we've got this Manchester event, which I'm going to go to, the Chimpers, are very hardworking. And also, of course, what's great about them is they have also created the characters as well with the names, which is why I'm a strong believer in Chimpers for lots of reasons, but one of the simple ones is their consistent hard work and connectivity with the community, and they're always putting stuff out there. I mean, you can't
boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. They're always doing that brilliantly. But and by the way, just as I just quickly got to mention that I did buy a Doodles last night. And just to say that, all I would say about that is what we were talking about earlier, Burge, as well. First of all, I've always wanted one, and I'm going to be really simplistic about this. I mean, their IP play is obviously their IP play, and they're doing what they're doing, and they are an iconic. They have
the collaboration with McDonald's.
Yes, they did. They've got one right now, not with McDonald's, the other end of the spectrum. I got it all written down here, actually. But just to say, the welcome I got was incredible. We often talk about if you get a mace, a mutant ape or a bored ape, you get a massive welcome. The welcome I got from the Doodles community, it's been huge just by posting on there. But they've got a new collaboration with the abstract artist. I think he's 19th, 20th century top big abstract artist, Pete Mondrian, and they've got a commission to remix some of the 5 iconic abstract works that he obviously was very well known for one of the top abstract artists that's ever lived. And it's quite telling that it's quite interesting that that estate has chosen doodles who have a certain position in the NFT space, whether people like them or not, or they have their misgiving, whatever they might feel. There's something that the reason I got invested in one, I think aesthetically, it's one of the most clean and striking artwork. That's a very simplistic reason for doing it, but it's always been something that's looked at me as a collection back at me and saying, why haven't you got one of me? For that reason. But also they do stand apart in certain ways. I won't go down too many rabbit holes with that, but there is something I think personally I find very special about them. But the bigger thing we talked about was, I think NFT collections are the iconic ones, the ones that have gathered over time and got stories to tell and all those things. We were saying, weren't we, Burge, they become their own metaverses. Herman Narula, read The Virtual Society, his book, which is all about metaverses have been around since the beginning of time, because all they are separate constructs in the world that people coming together create their own rituals, status, their own worlds. And I think the top NFT collections, you could say with VFriends, if you open the door, if you own a VFriends, you open a door and you step into this other little world, this kind of virtual world, and where you notice all the different things that have been going on for years. The IRL meetups, the artwork that's being created, the fan. You enter literally a really rich world, which for me is a bit like a metaverse, which that's exactly what a metaverse is. And the last thing I'll say about that is, in his book, Herman Arruda talks about the value that moves back and forth between the metaverse you're in and back to the real world. An example being, if you hold a Bored Ape, which has its own power within its own metaverse of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but it also has status and everything back in Web 2. Do you see what I mean? That it's recognizable across two different places. And I've just been blown away by getting into doodles. And it's funny how you just make one choice one evening to buy something, and then you stepped into another community, another world. So that's one of the things I love about NFTs.
A whole new world.
It's the beauty of NFTs.
You said you were going to sing that, Birch. I want you to sing that every time.
You get your built-in friendship group from just buying an NFT, and that's like the utility in itself. Plus, you've got something pretty cool there, bud. I think also there will be people who I think re-enter the space who would have missed some of these IP plays and now see them at reasonable prices, which I think is going to drive the pricing, which is why it's no surprise that the top 300 NFT projects by market cap were all up in the last 90 days.
Right.
Because people are leaning back into those. And then obviously you've got the original holders who didn't want to sell, because the vast majority of them own one, so they don't want to sell out the project. And I think that's mix of that supply crunch, the nostalgia, is probably going to drive the pricing. But you're nodding along there. Guys, we're probably going to close up in a second. We're going to open up any questions for people in the chat. But Burge, you've been searching the timeline there. Anything that pops out to you? Anything that you want to add to the conversation there?
Yeah, just wanted to touch on what Simon said before our live about Bored Ape. So the restructuring. Simon, I wonder if you can talk more about that ApeCo restructure and the work they're doing in Asia at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're dissolving. I think it's a semi-independent, wasn't it, ApeCo structure, and bringing it all on ApeCoin operations. So, the core team's decision-making directly under its control, which I think some people have felt feels a bit centralized, but it's, I think, going to get everything really consolidated. And it's going to be completed by June the 5th, actually. So all ape supply is now actually circulating, by the way, and there's no major unlocks. That's why I've seen on my timeline a lot of talk about, come on, go ApeCoin, because I think there's a bit of excitement around that. One last thing is, of course, it burns from other side gas usage at a deflationary element, which actually I think creates that scarcity. So I've been pretty bullish on the future potential of Ape Coin if Other Side and Yuga does its thing and it plays out as they hope. If that plays out, then I think ApeCoin will do very well.
I
So
didn't know
that's where
about
we
that
are.
deflationary aspect, or the fact that they finished all the unlocks.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Which is quite interesting. So, I know it's a coin I have a lot of, but I only have a lot of because it's in NFTs. It's not because it's like ETH. I don't hold it. I hold it in NFTs. But you were going to say something, Burge, about what's your thoughts about that?
Well, no. I was just I was going to say, actually, I think we've seen Figgy kind of take control, and it's been very positive. And so my thought when you were talking about it was just, it seems like a positive move. Yes, it might be bringing it a bit more centralized, but if that gives him and the team more control to make the moves that they want to make, I think they're going to make the right moves. I think there's not much reason to have anxiety about them trying to consolidate things. I think they're trying to slowly correct maybe some of the decisions that maybe weren't the best that were made previously. So that's just my take on that. But you said lastly about Asia, that they're pushing hard in Asia.
Yeah, there's the Asia Roadshow for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and they're actually going out to places like Shanghai, Hong Kong, etc., South Korea, I think. Maybe wrong about that last one, but they're out there because they're seeing a real resurgence of Asia and its focus on the Bored Ape Yacht Club and the purchasing of apes, which is interesting. I mean, that's another area which I haven't really kept an eye on, but the Southeast Asia kind of love of crypto and NFTs, and clearly Yuga, Bored Ape Yacht Club have detected that's becoming a real
collectibles as well,
and a real thing, and collectibles.
They love collectibles,
of course,
as well.
Yeah. So I find that quite interesting. It'd be good to explore that a little bit more.
Actually, VeeFriends Topps Chrome, which is coming out.
I wanted to ask you about that. Actually.
That's actually talking about Asia. They're actually going to have that available in China on Amazon. So they're going to have VeeFriends Topps Chrome 2026 available in China, which I think is a big deal. They're also going to have it available in the UK and Europe, and it's going to be massive in America as well. So I mean,
what is it?
Coming out
I'm
on
really
June
ignorant, Burge. What exactly will that look like? What will it be?
It's gonna be a big splash. It's the biggest release of the year for VeeFriends in terms of physical collectibles. When we're talking about trading cards or stickers that they release, even comic books. Like, out of all of them, the biggest thing that they release each year is Topps Chrome. The first Topps Chrome came out last year. In the summer, and then this year it'll be the same. And usually what it does is it sparks off this sort of this cardboard summer, if you will, of kind of like the collectibles going up in price. Now, right now, collectibles is in a really good place. I mean, forget what crypto and NFTs are doing. Collectibles is really, it's going from strength to strength. It's really exploding. So I think if the stars align, you could easily see these boxes shoot up in price, and the cards, the big pulls as well. I mean, someone's already put a bounty of $100,000 on one of the cards. So that's ridiculous.
How do people get hold of them? What's their mechanics for it all?
So if you're a holder and you hold lots of VeeFriends NFTs, you can get a mega box you get pre-sale, I think, Jaden, right? I mean, Jaden knows this because he's got about 20 plus VeeFriends NFTs. So what are you going to do with your boxes, Jaden? Looking at selling?
I've allowed someone else to claim them because the cards aren't really my thing.
Gotcha.
What about people once you're a Series 2 holder like I am?
No, Tom, you have to sit in the corner like a naughty boy because you can get a Series 2 corner.
Yeah, Series 2 didn't get
Series 1
this time.
Series 1 is the ticket, mate.
Did you make any money on the boxes, Jaden?
I can't possibly comment.
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
I was gonna do a Mike Tyson response, which is I broke my back, spinal.
But usually there it's like a it like last year we got a hobby box at pre-sale, which was $99, and that ended up going up to $600.
I'm disappointed the Sapphire boxes weren't in the run this year. because they were selling for. I mean, the resale price of it was some of them selling for like $8,000 for a fucking box of cardboard.
You got a free one of those if you held a gift goat.
Guys, this is cardboard with some ink on it. Like,
and
people go, "Oh, why would you collect an NFT? You can't feel and touch it." My fucking
it's positive.
We are better cardboard. Yes,
it's positive for NFTs. At the end of the day, it's positive for NFTs. I think collectibles doing well means NFTs will do well.
Guys, we're either completely mad and we've got it all wrong about NFTs, and it's all going to be a hellhole, or we are on a ride to something special.
There's no way we got it wrong. I don't think we got it wrong. But if we got it wrong, why would the prices...
We'll just trade between each other. Guys, this has been a fantastic. I keep going to like say show and then hold myself back. It's not really a show. It's fucking three lads just talking about NFTs and just having a bit of a hangout. And I really appreciate the 91 of you who have joined us. If you want to get the recording, you can get it through carrotlane.com. In fact, if you just hit the link in my bio, put your email address in, you'll get all of the updates. If you ever miss a live, it's straight into your inbox. You can actually listen to it in podcast form. We're on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, Spotify. But Simon, Burge, this has been a really good one. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. We're back next week at 8:30 Eastern time, 8:30 a.m. We've got a interview this Friday, actually, just to remind those who want to get on that one. It's with myself, Simon, and Jacob from Chimpers. So that'll be a really good interview. We can talk about his story and his journey, and do some digging there. But guys, really appreciate you joining. Until next week, we'll catch you then. Cheers.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.